All right. Mr. Hank Sullivan is going to join us. Let me take this down for just a moment. Hank, thank you so much again for making time today.
Thought I'd give you one of those awkward silences.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The good lines are mine now. Come on.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Good.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you for the chuckle.
Always start off with a joke, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I
That's
wanted
what
to
they
bring you
say.
back on for several reasons. One is you had reported what's going on in Forsyth County with regard to these grandfathering ordinance changes that have been orchestrated. And yet, remarkably, you got charged with putting out disinformation. And I thought, how bizarre. I mean, most people know that Hank's background, he's published information, not just on the county, but on the state and in some cases beyond for years, always, as far as I can tell, always brings the documents and the videos and everything else to show what's really going on. So I wanted to get your latest read on the feedback that you've gotten in these last, week and a half since you published the findings in Forsyth County.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. This case is really most interesting because rarely, if ever, really, have I been able to get any response out of the county commissioners. But this week, they're feeling the heat. They are really feeling the heat. I think one of the larger area Forsyth County Facebook community pages put out a poll asking a question about how they're feeling about our county commission, and it came in so bad that our county commissioners are feeling such heat on this that they decided that they were going to answer me. And so when that happens, somebody answers in writing, it's like they're playing on my home field. So I welcome that. I'm glad that if they want to answer and put it in writing, I think that's great. I'm glad for them to do that. But it raises one big question, and you alluded to that a few minutes ago when you said, okay, what did they know and when did they know it? Okay, so let me put this in context. So the way that they're describing this bill, this ordinance or ordinance provisions in here, it appears that they had no idea what they were voting for. So what did they know? I don't think they knew it at all. I don't think they knew what they were voting for at all. So when did they know that? I still don't think that they know what they voted on because their words indicate complete ignorance of what these ordinance provisions were actually about. But it's really striking that they would put all of this in writing because our county attorney, I mean, he's just doing what he's told to do. He told them exactly what this ordinance is about. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, you're coming in and out on my screen. I don't know. So to the commissioners, he said the law, and we can talk about what that law is, because it's not a general law in the state of Georgia. It's a few court cases. Says that a government has the opportunity to phase out legal, non-conforming grandfathered uses over what's called a reasonable period of time. You, the commissioners, tasked me, Ken Gerard, the attorney, to come up with some language that might begin to peel back some of the legal, non-conforming uses that we have in the county. There, in a nutshell, he told them exactly what this ordinance is all about. It's about peeling back some of the legal, non-conforming uses that we have in the county. In other words, if you have a legal, non-conforming or grandfathered business.
Well, that'll probably be good because he was cutting out. So,
whoops. All right. Well, while he's off, go ahead and if you can hear me, go ahead and rejoin, please, Hank. While he's doing that, I'm gonna put up something. Now, here's the. There we go, Hank. I'm gonna weigh in on something to give you a chance to get your thing stabilized. All right. So here is the actual Substack that Hank published, and it talks about a new set of ordinance rules, if you will, that allow the county to issue a citation to a business that might have been there for 100 years doing the same kind of business. Except now, if they so choose, they can issue this, and the company has essentially 18 months to prove that they're not violating something in the way that the citation suggests. Now, what's interesting to me is that Hank has gotten so much pushback directly from especially 3 members of the county commission. And we're at the point where we're going to name them so we know who we're dealing with. Chairman is Alfred John. Mr. John posted this, and he starts with, there has been a lot of disinformation on social media about county government shutting down businesses because they were grandfathered in with an older use that is no longer in compliance. An older use that's no longer in compliance. The whole notion of grandfathering means that if they were there and they were using the land for a legal purpose, grandfathering is supposed to allow them to continue to do that. Disinformation, I want you to remember these words. Disinformation is defined as false information spread deliberately to deceive people for political or economic gain. And what is being shared on social media is disinformation. This is his charge. He goes on to talk about the fact that the county already has a process where code enforcements and complaints from residents and others can be submitted, and our code enforcement personnel have to take action. Usually it's a conversation. Sometimes they end up taking somebody to court. So there's been a process for decades to deal with somebody using land for a purpose that's not in alignment with zoning. Yet this grandfathering has protected people because clearly it's unfair to have somebody that's been using this property for a particular purpose for could be decades, might be about 100 years, and then and then all of a sudden something changes and they're forced to give up their property or sell it or move or something else. Watch this. He then goes on, astoundingly, to suggest that in this statement, Hank Sullivan will have you believe that anarchy is best for the county and that no rules should apply. Is that what Hank is suggesting? Well, remember, Mr. Johns just got through telling you there's already processes in place. There's already processes that have been in place for decades to deal with such things if they need to be dealt with. And yet he's turning around. And what did we just get through talking about a few minutes ago? Change the narrative, change the direction of the conversation. All of a sudden, he's trying to say that now Hank Sullivan, in his questioning of this, would lead to anarchy. Holy mackerel. Okay.
Well, those are criminal things he's talking about in that text. There's plenty of laws on the books that you can't commit crimes on your property, right?
Right.
I mean, yes. I mean, that's just a non sequitur there. It doesn't even make sense.
Right. And he tries to make it, you can see it at the bottom, he tries to talk about a package store selling to minors. There's already laws against these things.
Yeah,
this has
fine.
Nothing to do with what Hank is.
Hank is like doing like this. He wants back in.
I know. I'm bringing you in, Hank. I just needed, I live here in Forsyth County, and I take personal umbrage with something like this because anybody with a thinking brain can read this and go, what? He just got through saying they have processes to take care of certain violations if they need to be. And yet all of a sudden, this new thing has been enacted. Okay. All right, Hank, you're back in. I'm going to take a deep breath for a minute.
I'm glad you're able to get all that out. So what they've done, all 3 of them, well, I'll say three of them being Alfred John, Chairman, Commissioner Laura Semanson, Commissioner Mindy Moore, they've all come out with these public statements this week. And each one of them are tying the code infraction into something that is not written into the code. For example, Laura Semanson says businesses who continuously violate our county or state codes. Those are the ones here that are subject to having their land uses terminated. According to Alfred John, it's serial offenders who continue to ignore the ordinance or the law. Again, that's got nothing to do with anything that Ken Gerard wrote and put in and that they voted for and enacted. And according to Mindy Moore, this is only about bad actors. So this has nothing to do with what has been codified in a way to be able to legally, lawfully, at least set up a process to terminate these land rights. And I cautioned people last week, and I will re-caution people again and remind them what I said. Law should never be judged by what a lawmaker says. That only makes common sense these days. But rather by the authorities the laws convey. Look at the law, read the law. What does the law give them authority to do? Because whatever the law gives them the authority to do is the way that that law is going to be used. It's not going to be used by some kind of a sugar-coated explanation of why they did something and the way that they're going to administer the law. No, that's not what this is at all. So they are now circling the wagons. We have 3 county commissioners here that are circling the wagons. They see that this is not popular. The people don't want their family businesses or businesses that they've been going to for years and years and years to all of a sudden be terminated so that they can bring in a different kind of a land use that might bring in more money or whatever it might be. That's not what the people of Forsyth County want. They want a righteous land use policy. Just get this. Land use, if you have a grandfathered property, they mean for it to decay and fall into ruin because they will not give you a building permit to improve the property because your property is non-compliant with the present zoning. That's not right. That's not right for a business that's been there for decades that needs some improvements not to be able to make those improvements. That is not right at all, but that's the way that this reads.
Hank, let me share something that you alluded to earlier. You talked about it earlier, but I want to make sure people can hear this. Sometimes you just have to listen carefully to everybody's comments and you'll find the reality underneath things. Let me bring this up. This is a hearing wherein the actual attorney of Forsyth clarified what he'd been working on and why. Let me go ahead and I'll play this.
The law, if it says one thing on this, is it says that a government has an opportunity to phase out legal nonconforming or grandfather uses over what's called a, quote, reasonable period of time. So you are taking the courts at their word, and you tasked me to come up with some language that might begin to peel back some of these legal nonconforming uses that we have in the county.
Phase out. Phase out.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
It's exactly what he said. This is not about somebody,
that's the code. That's exactly what the code intention is. I mean, I have no problems with Mr. Gerard saying what he said because he was just directed to do what he did, and he gave them the ordinance they asked for. But now they're portraying it to be completely different than what he told them what it was all about. And I think it's interesting that Commissioner Semanson, she said in her written remarks that I had mistakenly invoked the role of the planning director. In this case, his name is Tom Brown. In all of this, she says Tom Brown's got nothing to do with this. When Tom Brown or his successor, whoever's in that planning director position, that person is the key instrument in all of this because no one's land use is going to be terminated unless the planning director himself opines that the use is a primary use or a substantial ancillary use of the property. So that's got to come from Tom Brown. So what actually happened out here, Mr. Brown, and I don't even need to be using his name. It's just the planning director. What happened out here? Well, let's see. We have an ordinance that businesses need to turn their lights out at midnight, and they didn't turn the lights out. Does that constitute a primary use or a substantial ancillary use of the property with respect to the land use? Well, no. But let's talk about maybe some other things. So they moved. They're no longer parking cars here. They're parking cars over there. Is that a primary use or a substantial ancillary use of the property? Yes, it certainly is, because they were parking over here and now they're parking over there. So they're using the land differently. So you see, that can be looked at 100 different ways. You can interpret that to mean practically anything, and that's the way that this is written. It's actually, pretty ingenious that they created this ordinance with such nebulous wording that it can be interpreted any way that you want to interpret it. And if they are a substantial ancillary use or a primary use, then they're going to get a notification that their property is going to revert to the new zoning in 18 months.
And that could force them to close, move, sell the property, or all three, right?
Well, it's actually going to cause a lot of lawsuits because nobody's going to put up with that. And if they tried to close down a business been in operation for 50 years, whatever it might be, because of something like that, then yeah, it's just going to end up in court and it's going to go forever and ever and ever. And the taxpayers of the county are going to have to pay to defend or sue another taxpayer in the county. And that's just not a good use of taxpayers' funds.
Yeah. Hey, Hank, let me ask you that, nothing happens at the local level anymore that's not coordinated nationally.
Oops, we lost him again.
Oh, I was going to say, Bill, that nothing ever happens locally that's not coordinated nationally. We've seen that with Indivisible and everything else. And we had the Chevron decision, which kind of pulled away the ability of government to come in and bureaucratically change, your life. Maybe they're trying to drive this down to the local level. I mean, what do you think?
The question, Hank, was, is this a broader agenda than just Forsyth County? Because it seems to be in alignment with some things we're starting to see around other parts of the country.
I think it's just a general characteristic of government. The government is going to keep trying to claim more and more and more authority and control over the people that are governed. And that's universal. I don't care where you're going. That's what happens in Forsyth County. It happens north of us, south of us, in different states. And I think it's just the way that government goes. One of the things I say in the new article, which incidentally is entitled "Commissioners Circle Wagons to Sugarcoat Grandfather Gate Zoning Ordinance Debacle." One of the points I'm making here is I have to kind of pause because I want to make this point, cement it home to the people that are reading this, that think about this. These commissioners, they are their neighbors. They are the people that live down the street from them. They're the folks that, given a modicum of authority, are trying to put business owners that also live down the street out of business. Now, think about that. Who would do this? This is a county. We're all friends here. We know each other here. The people doing this just live over in the other neighborhood. So why are we I think we have to rethink the very purpose of local government here. It's not so we can come up with some perfect land use for that somebody from another state or Ohio State University Department of Urban Planning comes down here and decides that, oh gosh, we can do this here, we can do this here, and everything. By the time we get done with this, it's going to be a perfect land use plan. No, we need local people that are looking at this historically and go, well, how do we want this to develop here? Well, I remember Uncle Joe's farm was over there, and it's still farmland over there. Maybe I know it's going to be a subdivision someday, but how can we enhance that and make that into an historically representative new development of what Uncle Joe had over there? That's really what the people in this county want. They don't want to be told that their land use is no longer relevant to this grand scheme that they've been working on for 3 decades down at the county administration building.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that there'd been a poll to determine residents' feeling and confidence in the decision-making of the county commission. Let's take a look at this. This is from, I believe that's the group name at the top, isn't it? Forsyth County Community Views?
Yes, Forsyth County Community Views. Yes.
And it's been assembled by an independent group. They're not us. They're not you. But one of the questions is, do you trust the current members of the BOC, Board of Commissioners, are working for the people of Forsyth as they were elected to do? I think it's fairly telling, at least in this particular survey. Yes got 6%. No got 93%. And there's 1% down at sometimes.
Yeah.
So, you could make the argument, well, with a bigger sample, I think this was 300 or 400 people that responded to this. But if you, even with a bigger sample, 300 is still statistically significant, believe it or not. If you look at many of the things that political things do from the AJC and others, they'll sample hundreds, sometimes low thousand. But 93% is fairly telling. I wonder what it would be if we got, half the county to respond to this, especially when you look at all the stuff that's been built in the last few years that people have objected to, the multifamily housing going up all over Forsyth, when in other counties doesn't seem to have been done that way. So back to you, Hank. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know what it would be if you looked at this county-wide. I know that people down in the south part of the county look at things differently than the people in the north side of the county. And I kind of live in the middle, but District 1 is predominantly on the northwestern quadrant of Forsyth County. Is probably the most conservative area of Forsyth County. That's why they need somebody who's probably the most conservative person that they can imagine to help represent them and protect their interests down at I guess that, well, I'm not even going to say that, in the county commission. So I don't know how that would go. I don't know what the spread of residences are in that sample. I just know that when you look at 93% of the people that are against the county commission's views on things and their actions, that is a significant figure. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I received the responses that I did. They are feeling the heat. These three are feeling the heat. And I said that they were circling the wagons. And let me say, the imagery of that is that you're circling the wagons because you're creating a fortification. Well, what's in the middle of that fortification? I'll tell you exactly what's in the middle of that fortification, and that is District 1 Commissioner Carrie Hill. She hasn't said a word about any of this. Carrie Hill is right in the middle of the wagons, and then she's got Alfred John and Laura Semanson and Mindy Moore, and they are all the ones that are taking the heat, and they're the ones that are trying to dish it back out, but they're not being very successful. But I want everybody to know that what they're trying to do is protect their standing on the board and their percentages of ownership of the Forsyth County Commission. They own that Forsyth County Commission because they're all acting as a block. You cannot defeat them in anything that they try to do because they're acting as a block. And Carrie Hill, who is my opponent, she's the incumbent, and she simply votes with them. And I hear from people all over the district that she doesn't answer their phone calls. She never gets back in touch with people. They have questions to ask her, and she never gets back with them. Well, I will say this for myself. When you read this Substack, which will be going out about 6:30 tonight, I will deal with every single allegation, every single point that all of these three commissioners make at me. I don't leave anything out. And that is the way that I am. That is my personality. And so if I'm in that position and you have a question, you have a concern, there's something that you don't like that I did, I'm not perfect, but I will answer you. You will get an answer. If you want to speak to me, I will speak to you. I will meet you. Well, that's not the kind of representation that people have these days, and it's probably universal everywhere. But I'm not that kind of person. The kind of person I am is what I write. When you read what I write, you know who I am.
So that brings up two important points. One is people are going to get a chance to meet you and hear from you in the coming, 10 days. Let me bring this up. So there's a meet and greet that is scheduled for November 10th, which is a week from Monday. And so you can get more information on that at the website that you've put up, right, Hank, at votehanksullivan.com.
votehanksullivan.com. On my Substack, I have put that invitation out to people on my Substack, and it is on my Facebook page, both Hank Sullivan page and the Hank Sullivan for County Commission Facebook page as well. And yes, I'm looking for a big turnout there. I would love to meet the more and more people of Forsyth County, because people of Forsyth County have got to reclaim their county government. It is over the past several decades, really, it has become onerous. It has become tyrannical, in my opinion, and it's time for the people to take their government back.
Yep.